Yes. Who did that? Somebody said something in the background. It ruined the professional intro. That was your. I think that was you, Marge. Terrible.
I was just saying I was ready.
Oh, you've ruined it.
There was a. I heard a
Well,
grunt,
even the
but I don't
most
know who it was.
professional can sometimes mess up.
Oh, that was going to be perfect as well, as you all know. You know.
Right.
Imagine Mackie with a perfect intro. There you go. We're done.
Right.
Imagine.
Gosh.
Well, for once it wasn't Mackie.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was just distracted. You know. Where's Marco gone? Is he still there?
Out here. I'm just
going like, what are these
listening
crazy
to the
people
banter.
doing over here? Yeah, what's going on?
Yes, that was very professional, everybody. Well, yes, everybody, and welcome to High on Homegrown, the cannabis podcast from Percy'sGrowroom.com. I am Mackie from the UK, and joining us this week, we have Marge.
That's right. Always trying to bring the professionalism, not always bringing it though. Host of Bite Me the Show about edibles, coming from Central Canada, and I have an article out in Fat Nugs magazine. You should read it. Thanks.
Nice. What was the article about, Marge?
It was a music themed edition of Fat Nugs magazine. So it was about pairing your favorite edibles with music, and there was also an infused hot toddy recipe in there too.
Nice. Good shit, man. I like it. Drop us a link and we'll share it on the forum or something if you have it.
Yeah, I'll have to find it.
Yeah, and then we of course have Monkey Do. What's up, Monkey?
Not much, man. Monkey down here in the Southeast US, just hanging out on a Sunday. Now I have to go check out this article here, figure out what Marge is recommending as far as edibles go, you know?
Mm-hmm. And of course, don't forget to check out Marge's podcast, Bite Me the Show about edibles, and find out what she knows about edibles there too. And get super high. And then we have Marco who's come to join us, the special guest for today's Grow Guides, everybody. We have Marco, the grand champion, cannabis grower, award winner. What's up, Marco? You good?
What's up, family? I'm doing good. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm in the house. Can't wait to talk a little bit of raised beds with y'all.
Nice. Yeah, man, if there's anybody who knows this stuff, because I unfortunately don't grow in a raised bed, and neither does Monkey. Marge, do you sometimes when you grow outdoors, do you do raised bed or?
No, I have not.
Cool. So you're the guy who knows this. You know, you live this. This
I'm
is
relying
your
on you, Marco.
Yeah. It's all you from.
Right.
It's all you from here, bro. We just got to mute our mics and let you do your thing.
That's
See you in a
right.
bit.
Okay, Marco, you got it.
Well, you know me.
No, we're not really. You know, like for half a second, he believed us. Like,
Right.
Like,
oh
my
no,
God, what did I do here?
What have I gotten into it?
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, man. Yeah, loads of knowledge from Marco. So, and if you have any questions as well, everybody, if you're here live joining us on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And if you have any questions throughout the show, make sure you put a Q before them in the chat so we know those questions are for us. So we will have less chance of missing them. But
See,
we have.
I like that. I'm learning from you guys. Put the Q before the question. I love that.
We're professional, Marco.
I see.
Professional as fuck, bro. No, no, we try. It's just easier to spot them like that.
Right.
It's just we get trolled by this one particular person, Billy Buns, and he asks stupid questions. Well, not stupid questions, just questions that it's not the right forum to be asking that kind of question. You know, he gets a bit 18 plus in a different way. You know.
A lot of the questions involve his socks. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of questions that involve socks. That's right.
Crunchy socks, man. That's a valid question for some forum.
It sounds like an indie band name as well, doesn't it? You know,
Crunchy socks. They could be out there with pathological sloth. Yeah, man. Definitely.
We got another band name out there for you all, everybody. Crunchy socks.
Crunchy socks.
Crunchy socks.
Nice. So yeah, we're gonna hit up the Grow Guides. We're gonna be talking specifically this week about growing cannabis in raised beds, which is a great way to grow either indoors or outdoors. And Marco's gonna explain all that to us. And we have some listener mail questions that were sent in by some of you guys as well. So we'll cover them towards the end of the show as well. But with that, I think it is time to move on to the Grow Guides and start getting into the juice of it. Are we all ready?
All right. Yeah.
Ready.
Let's do it.
Go.
So pretty simply, a raised bed is going to be a huge pot essentially, which you're gonna build yourself most likely, but it's gonna have like 200 liters of soil in it at least. We'll get into all that kinds of stuff. But you're gonna plant multiple plants into this one big container that holds a lot of soil, and from there you're gonna have loads of plants growing in it, and it's not just gonna be a single pot for each plant. It's a nice way to grow, but it can be complicated too, I find, because it's just it can be a little bit troublesome if you're growing it in an illegal place. I've never done it because sorry, Mark, I'll explain this to you. See, I've never done the whole raised bed thing because it can't be moved easily. So if they call up and they're like, "Oh, we need to come and do an electricity inspection of your house to make sure all the sockets ain't gonna set on fire," then you have to let the guys in and they have to inspect the place. And it's pretty much the law here. So you can't have a raised bed. Try moving that. Okay,
Yeah,
give me
feel you.
3 days and a JCB.
They'll be like, they're coming tomorrow. And you're like, there's
Mhm.
no physical way I can move all this soil.
That's right,
even
man.
if you knew they were coming. I
Yeah.
feel you on that. But yeah, for me, like the raised beds, especially indoor, they've gotten bigger as we've gotten more legal. You know what I mean? For some of the same reasons. You know what I mean? I was always a kind of a 5-gallon pot guy for a long time. And then just wanting to expand and increase the volume of soil, because more soil, more nutrient cycling, bigger plants, healthier plants is kind of the initial mindset of the larger beds and soil volumes.
Mm-hmm. And the
Um,
microbial life as well. It's like a big city for the
exactly.
microbes.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, more soil, more microbes, everything. And that's all that part of that nutrient cycling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which you don't get as much of that in a 5-gallon. You can get a little, but a 5-gallon's always going to be dependent on, you adding something to get the plants to finish for the most part. I like at least a 30-gallon. Like you don't have to get huge, with it, 30 gallon, what's that, 112
Yeah.
liters or
About
whatever,
120 maybe. Yeah.
120 liters or so. So something like that, I'd say is, the minimum. If you're going to go with that full living soil now,
Yeah.
so since we're talking raised beds, the bigger to me, the larger volume of soil, the better. Now, the depth isn't always as critical, even though like some of the big fabric pot companies, they sell like a depth of like, 18 inches or whatever it is. Cannabis can do all right at a little bit shallower depths as long as you got some wide, your beds are a little wider. So there's a little bit of different ways to kind of work through that. It's more about the volume of soil, um, more so than the depth.
Yeah.
In a way.
So what are the advantages then? Because you're gonna have to build this thing, fill it with a lot of soil. So in order to do this, why do people do this? What is the benefits of growing in a raised bed?
Yeah, for me, the main benefits are, especially indoor, and this is, you can say it for outdoor too, but we're mostly going to be talking indoor because I think that's what most of us are on. But so if you're going indoor now, larger soil volume, more forgiving, meaning that soil will buffer when you put inputs. If you don't have to manage exactly what you're putting in because there's so much soil volume, the microbial action pretty much buffers that. So I like that part of it. I like the part that I can leave. I left for 5 days. Before I left, I watered my living soils heavily and went away 5 days, come back, plants growing massive. No dry plants, nothing leaning, nothing hanging down. So you get that. It's a forgiving system. So it's worth putting in that effort. For me, plants are stronger, bigger, also because we're kind of going into that horizontal aspect. This is kind of how I like to build my raised beds.
Yeah, that's right. The whole horizontal soil thing that you do as well. You want to quickly explain that? Well, let's quickly cover first off. How would you go about building the bed? Like the actual bed itself without the soil in it. 'Cause I've seen there's some companies that sell the like raised beds but made out of cloth now with the poles to hold them up. Have you seen those?
Yeah, they have like the PVC poles kind of supporting the thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are kind of standard.
Yeah, are
Um,
they good? Would you recommend those?
Yeah, those have, and there's different brands, so I'm not going to recommend one brand in particular. But yeah, I like the living soil beds, which
Hmm.
and a lot of them have a plastic liner
Yeah.
on the inside, which is kind of, they say, to keep the moisture in, and that is true. So yeah, I like those type beds, and I like the ones that have a plastic liner, but that breather strip on the bottom 4 inches. So I look for that.
Right.
Always, look for, like, start looking for your tray early. Like depending on what your setup is, I always try to get a tray that's going to fit, because you can't just have this stuff like draining on the floor, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
You want these beds in a tray, even if you have to get thick poly plastic to wrap the bottom. You
Right.
got to get something like a coaster to keep that in. So keep that in mind when you're building it. And then the weight isn't too bad, but obviously for any home, you know what I mean, these beds are not going to be something that's going to be, out of, spec for the house, or going to worry about breaking your ceiling down. Now, if you try to fill up the whole second floor, with heavy
Right.
soil beds, that's a whole different thing. But using
Hmm.
common sense, there's no issues there. If I'm going to purpose build a room and just go say I want to build one of these beds, I'd like to do a 3 foot by 3 foot, which is, a meter square, whatever.
Hmm.
um Kind of that gives me enough, around that, almost close to a yard of soil, if you will.
Right.
um, that's a lot. That can support a lot of plants. That 3 by 3 can support, for mine, I support a canopy which is twice that size. So my canopy is basically, 4 foot by 6 foot, or 5 foot by 6 foot, on
Hmm.
the canopy side. So these soils, they can support a lot of canopy. So kind of build it with that in mind. Um, and yeah, thinking like that, Mackie. But the way to build it is, I like to build my own soil, so find a good soil recipe. Like, even the best bag soil you're gonna buy, for me, it can be better. It's not gonna
Hmm.
necessarily take you all the way through a grow water only. So I like a Clackamas Coots. It's a 3-part mix.
Yep.
Whereas his mix will be like a third earthworm castings, 1/3 I believe it was rice hulls, and then 1/3 peat.
Hmm.
I might. It's been a long time since I made Coots mix, but the similar to that, it's 3 parts to it. I use usually like IMO is one of my parts, and then my soil that I build is another part, and then I like the rice hulls too for good aeration. So you have to kind of find your own soil mix. I'm not going to give
Hmm.
you that, but when you build this thing, you're going to think like horizons. And the way I had a good way of thinking about it, I was taking a trip with the wife. We were going through the mountains, and you know how they cut roads through the mountains. So you look up on either side, and you always see like trees starting to grow where, it just looks like rock. You know what I mean? Like, kind of where, what happens is, on top of a flat rock, you get a little bit of gravel, the rock's broken. Now you get a seed land in there, roots get a little place to take hold. Now you got organic material dropping, tree grows, plant grows, and it becomes a cycle where the roots, rock, the organic material start creating its own soil, right? And if you a road that's been cut through many, many years ago, there'll be places where there's big trees growing up there. If it's kind of a road that just was cut through, you'll see just smaller trees where that process is getting started. And so I try to keep that in mind, like with horizontal. We want our first layer on the bottom to be broken up rock, thinking the broken bedrock um, is layer one. And then kind of filling that in, instead of using bedrock, which is very heavy, we like to use lava rock or pumice, which is very light. So we save on weight right there. And then so that layer is about 4 inches. When you add that coarser, gravels and pumice and lava rock on that bottom layer, now you want to go start filling it in with smaller pebbles. Fill that in, and then go to sand, and that becomes a sand filter inside of your bed, or your bag.
Hmm.
And what that does is, when you're watering from above, that sand gravel filter filters out the organic particles, so that when your water runs out, the organic particles stay in there, and that becomes a zone of very, rich nutrient activity and root activity, right? On top of that sand layer, I'm going to put my typical soil. That soil I just said, but build a Coots mix, your soil, the soil you like, the soil that you've amended, and okay, this will go and run, this is good for cannabis. This will, get me going. So that'll be your next layer. That'll be about 8 inches. The bottom layer was about 4. This next layer will be, 6 to 8 inches. This is the meat and potatoes of your grow, of your soil. This is the soil you could grow in if you weren't doing any of this horizontal stuff. You feel me? So, and then from there, 6 to 8 inches, you put that on top of that sand layer. Now, this is your A horizon. It doesn't really stand for anything. That first horizon was E, meaning alluvial, stands for alluvial layer of stone, where stone breaks up, where bedrock breaks up in the earth, alluvial. So that's your E horizon. Second layer is your main meat and potatoes. That's just your A horizon. And then on top of that, we'll have a shorter 4-inch horizon, which will be organic. And that'll be if you picture in the forest when the leaves drop every year in that area of zone on top of the soil, organic material dropping, microbial action in there, breaking that down. That mulch layer is where I control my bed. Like that's where I add things to this system, is in that O layer, because that 4-inch layer, which for me would be like, say, a alfalfa, straw, or IMO, or leaf mold, or any combination of those for that O layer, that breaks down within one grow cycle. Like at the end of an 8-week cycle, that 4 inches is now pretty much, you can't determine where it is anymore. You can just dust it off and it's just like, soil. So that's where each round after I flower, I come back in high nitrogen O layer. Boom, that emulates the chop and drop, leaves drop, nutrient cycling. And that's key to the whole system to me, is that kind of that all those parts come together, but that O horizon is really crucial, and for me, the longevity of the soil, where I can just keep going water only.
You have worms in there too.
Yeah, and then sometimes I'll purposely put worms in my soils. Sometimes I'll just only put in the soil that I'm building from outdoors, and the worms kind of get a ride in there with them. But either way, yeah, all the soils do end up having worms in there. Usually like composting worms, like red wigglers is what we have here.
What kind of wood do you use because to actually build the raised bed? You've got yours 3 foot by 3 foot, so it's going to be 3 foot across and 3 foot back.
Yeah.
And then you say 3 foot high as well. How high is it?
Yeah, so for the height, because we're only going for that 4 inches, and then that 6 to 8, so that's 12, and then another 4.
Right.
So you're talking, 16, 18 inches. And that's where I was saying you can get away with a thinner A horizon, that meat and potatoes, portion of your soil where all the work happens, where all the action is going on. You can get away with that, making that a little shorter. But in general, the more you got going on there, that's the stomach for your soil, and that's just really going to benefit your plants. So as far as building them, you can use the PVC style where they build it. It's already a kit. And then you just find the proper tray to work it. What I like to do is I build them all different ways, but you can take basically just any kind of wood, Mackie. Treated wood will be fine. You don't have to do treated, because what I'll do is take like pool or pond liner, like you can get that from your local nursery shop or whatever, and then I'll just build a wood box and then use that pond liner to make my tray, if you will. I make a short tray, and then now I can just build that to any size bag that I may come across on a deal or whatever I may be using. Like I found this one that's 230 gallons. They're all sewn together, but it's like a 2 round 30 gallons sewn together in a rectangle bag. And it's just some oddball thing that was on sale, and I picked it up. So I just built a box to fit it. You know what I mean? And then now I'm watertight, so I can water this thing to fuck as much as I want. I'll see it. Oh shit, it's just filling up in the bottom. I could actually suck some out if I really wanted to. But what that does is more forgiving, because a lot of times with these beds, the biggest problem people have is they think they're watering well and they're not. And it stems from when you build that soil. You know how when you first build your soil, it's evenly wet, you did all your thing, it's just so nice and moist. You grab a handful out of there, it's all perfectly evenly moist. Well, then when you put it in these larger beds, you got to make sure you're hitting those corners. You're watering it all the way out to the corners equally. And you got to water it often enough, because sometimes, like with a typical pot, you might water every 3, 4 days. Well, with these living soils, when they're really drinking a lot of, the plants are really respiring and pulling a lot of moisture out of them, sometimes it's better to water a little bit every day, like just water only, just to keep that water, just to keep it moist and hydrated. And if you do that, you could really support a lot of biomass growing out of these beds.
Mm-hmm. Man, it sounds so cool. It's my favorite way of growing, but I've never done it. One day I can dream, right? So
Yeah,
you've got to
man.
leave space. So you've built this wooden thing, or you've gone and bought the shape of one, whatever size your grow tent. And say if you've got, for example, we were talking about a 1 meter by 1 meter grow tent. So
Uh-huh.
you've got 3 foot by 3 foot, which is about 90 centimeters. So there's a little gap between the two edge, between the edge of the actual raised bed and the tent or the grow room,
Right.
right? Is there a specific amount of space you should leave? Do you have to get around it sometimes or something?
What I do, man, is I make sure it depends. Like if I'm doing just the bed, it depends on the space. If I got open concept, obviously you can get all around. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
just doing tent style or just building a little purpose-built little room, then I just make sure I can access both sides. If it's like, say if it's a square, I gotta at least be able to get to 3 sides, because I gotta be able to access the back, at least reach in there. I'm not worrying about the floor space inside, because remember, my canopy is bigger than that bed usually. Like in the 3 by 3, the canopy's six
Mm-hmm.
foot by 5 foot by 6 foot, so it's
Right.
even bigger
Yeah.
than the footprint
Uh-huh.
on the floor. So really, you could fill that on up with soil. You know what I mean? If you wanted to, but the point being, a smaller bed, a 3 by 3, can handle twice that canopy. So that's one way you can kind of keep things smaller and cost down when you're starting out too. You
Nice. Yeah.
know?
We got questions in the chat rolling in there. Everybody keep dropping your questions in. Uh,
I can't see the
how does
chat.
it go with? It's on the YouTube. The links at the top of the show notes. If you want to click
Ah,
that, it'll take you to the guy
gotcha,
the chat in the YouTube video.
gotcha.
But what happens with bugs in this situation? If you get bugs, how do you control a bug infestation in living soil? Well,
Yeah, the
in a
biggest
raised bed,
thing,
like because it's a massive pot essentially,
yeah,
So how can you
massive
control
pot.
bugs? Yeah.
Yeah, massive pot. And the biggest thing with these setups is when you first set them up, for whatever reason, for whatever wherever you may harvest your ingredients, the biggest thing with living soil or organics or that kind of thing is going to be your fungus gnats. A lot of people say they
Mm-hmm.
have issues with that, and that is true. And so what I do is when I build my soil, that A horizon, and when I'm building that O horizon, we've just put in a forethought and go ahead and get some BTI, which is basically mosquito dunks.
Right.
Have those soaking in water. And now
Mhm.
when I'm watering my soil to moisten it, I'm watering in that BTI. So then now that'll kind of limit, that goes right hand in hand with any chance of a fungus gnat bloom coming up.
Mhm.
Um, Once you
Nice.
get the fungus gnats and that you get through that little bloom, if you even have one, then things start really getting into balance. And that's where you don't really have any issues with pests and bugs. And as far as things, for the most part, I don't have issues with things wanting to come out of the bed. Sometimes you get some wood louse in the way depending on how you build your soil, you might have wood louse in there, or isopods,
Mm-hmm.
roly polies, uh, that kind of thing in there. And the soil is where they want to be. That's where they're eating, that's where they're living, that's where they're spending their time. So really, to come out onto this fabric bed and walking around on that, that's not really an environment prefer. So I don't have an issue, really with stuff coming out in the grow room like that.
Mm-hmm. Nice, man. So
Yeah, but it's pretty chill, man. It's like it's really forgiving, like I said, and like you just get that expression, like your plant gives you the full expression of itself. And one good example is I had a buddy that I got some genetics from, and he's a pretty good grower, he's a good grower. And so these genetics had some caps frozen lemons in them. And
right.
so I grew them out. I think I grew 8 of them out in my living soil. And out of that 8, I had like half and half, like 4 were really lemony and 4 were not. And I hit him up and I was like, yeah, man, I got 4 lemon. I was really excited because they were very lemony. He was like, what, man? He said, every one I grew was lemon. And so this is a guy that I trust. He wasn't just bullshitting me. He was just telling me straight up, like, yeah, man, every one I grew was lemon. I didn't have a non-lemon pheno. And so talking about it with people, more than one person said the living soil actually let that plant express itself to the point where it gave you more than the lemon. Yeah, if that makes sense. And when he broke it down that way, it was like one of those chill bump moments. It was like, damn, yeah, man, damn, that's crazy. So much expression that it was able to go outside of itself and be more than than the lemon, even though that wasn't preferred. But that was an example of it. And I think that's the thing where, you know, y- to me, grow a plant this way and then grow it living soil and see the difference. I've noticed differences even within my own living soil doing the same cut in a different bed. I get totally different characteristics. So it's pretty wild, man.
Do you think you could do the same kind of thing with hydro? I mean, I think there is a grow method like that, and it's like ebb and flow, where you get a massive pot, like a hot tub, and just fill that with the reservoir, and then put plants above that. Is that the same as raised bed, but being a hydroponic raised bed?
Yeah, because I remember the old ebb and flow. But
Mm-hmm.
what I would say, my next thing that I want to do, Mackie. So if you picture our gravel, right, and our sand, and same horizon like we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
but now what I'm gonna do is I want to have this bed longer at a tilt, and then like you said, I want to have water flowing under it through the E horizon, right?
Yeah.
Same soil up above, same everything up above, but now it's almost like these roots are going down and tapping into a underground stream.
Nice.
And that
Yeah.
underground
Damn.
stream,
That's
yeah,
genius, bro. Shit.
but see, and then that's tied to the fish. So I want that water to be dirty fish water that's running up under there. So
Nice. Yeah,
I just need to
that sounds
take the
good, man.
time.
Let the
Yeah.
roots go all the way through. How long is it going to take for the roots to get through? And do you see that happen already in your raised beds? Do the plant's roots reach the bottom and start sticking out the bottom of the raised bed?
Yeah, that's a great question because in that one bed I was describing earlier, which was a 2 30-gallon sewn together in a rectangle thing.
Uh-huh.
So if you picture 2 circles inside a rectangle, right? There's these little pockets where they kind of in where the where they meet.
Uh-huh.
I didn't put
Mm-hmm.
anything in
Yeah.
those pockets so that I could see down there. And I see, yeah, the roots are they go down there pretty quick, man, within about
Nice.
12 days to 14 days.
Man, you got to give that a try. That'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so that's just to me would just take it kind of up another notch, trying to it's all a hobby, man. It's all fun. It's all trying to produce the
Mm-hmm.
best smoke and have
Yeah.
fun with it and
That's right,
do
man.
something neat,
Enjoy it, innit? Don't make it too stressful. Just it's a hobby too. We're supposed to be enjoying this as we're doing it.
Yeah, it's about trial and error,
Mm.
We'll see how it goes. I have it built in my mind, but then when you start building it in real life, you never know.
Mm-hmm. So do you plant anything else alongside your cannabis in your raised beds, or is it just cannabis? Like companion plants. Do you have any of
Yeah,
those?
yeah. On my outdoor, I did hairy vetch, and I have comfrey right next to my outdoor cannabis. Indoor, I have some wild grasses that just kind of volunteer on in with the IMO and the things that I make outdoors on my property. I've tried to keep companions or grow them down there, Mackie. But the thing I noticed, because I really like to keep a tight canopy, I don't get a lot of and I'm not growing in any open floor plan stuff. Like all my beds are in a little room of their own kind of thing. So I don't get a lot of side lighting. So whatever I try to that tries to kind of go down there doesn't really grow very well. And when I do that, and then the other thing is with that the way my soil is so hungry, it's consuming that O layer. So each round, I
Mm.
just like to be able to have that control of putting that mulch in of my choosing each round
So
on
is
the
that the only
reset.
way you add nutrients to it? Because what's the score there? How long does it take for nutrients to start being used up in the soil so you notice a deficiency? And how do you amend any deficiency you have in the soil?
Yeah, so I use JLFs, which are adding nutrients that way, the Jadam liquid fertilizers.
Hmm.
And that's just plant material, water, and microbes broken down to a funky liquid. Those are available to the plant immediately. I do use things like FAA. I do use some natural farming inputs at times, but right now, usually when it's not in veg, I'll do some JLFs, which because to add that nitrogen. But for the most part, when I build my soils, I build them, for longevity with lots of rock dust and things like that in them. And so really nitrogen is where I just end up like pretty much everybody. Nitrogen doesn't it moves in the soil pretty fast. And so nitrogen will be where I have to just freshen that up each run,
Right.
add that thick nitrogen layer in there, and that seems to do enough. As far as I never have the soil tested because this all started, before there was no soil testing. It was like keeping shit quiet, like be quiet, like nobody even knows you're growing type stuff. So
Mm.
I basically grew into a way that worked for me, and it didn't lead to deficiencies, and the reason why is because that principle of like nature, in the fall, shit drops. I gotta keep that
Mm.
drop and drop. I gotta keep adding that mulch layer because that is where all that nutrient cycling takes place in my soil. If I skipped a cycle with that, I can get through it. If I skip two, then I would start seeing some deficiencies, I think, because I think I
Mm.
would be getting real short on nitrogen.
Right.
Uh, because I do things like even gypsum, add rock dust back into those O layers when I feel like they need them. Clays, I add a lot of clays into my O layer. Sand, if my soil is starting to get a little bit too much on the worm casting side, I'll add sand in there. So all those things are adding, and then over time, I don't add sand every time, but if I added sand last time, that sand is still in there, and then I'm adding more, and then it just kind of worms are turning this stuff, and it all kind of stays in good balance.
Mm. So far you've got a tray to catch all the water, and you've built uh, a 1.5 foot high box that goes across your grow room, leaving like 10, 20 centimeters either side of it. So, for example, a 1 meter tent or a 1.2 meter tent or 4 foot tent, uh, 3 foot by 3 foot is fine with a 1.5 foot high. You're gonna fill that with the soil. So you're talking big stones first, smaller stones, sand, then your actual soil. Right? That's what's
Hmm.
going on so far. So
Yeah.
and so you have a 3 by 3, right? That's the
Mhm.
size of your bed. How many plants do you put in that?
So in my 3 by 3, I've done 9 in there.
Right.
Uh, yeah, I've
The
done
the the,
9.
the plants got a smaller then because in the I would
Well, remember I got a 3 by 3, so that's 9 plants. But canopy size, I'm not 4. I'm
mm,
still that 4.5 by 6 foot.
right,
So I
right.
can still grow pretty big plants.
Okay, so yeah,
Um,
so you're like planting them near the edge. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
yeah, so
Mm,
kind of just not kind of even with that bed Mackie, you can kind of plan them even towards more centralized.
mm,
If you say like if you want an even more forgiving bed, you want to centralize towards the middle, and then when you train them as they start
yeah,
growing, then you go train out to your canopy.
nice. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Raised
and then
beds is
just
the way
kind of
to
fill
go.
it up.
So, what would you say was one of the most difficult things about raised beds? What pisses you off using these? What would be easier? You know, what easier ways are there to grow? Do you think? What's the most difficult thing about growing in a raised bed? Loads of questions there, mate. Just
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because it's like anything that sounds great, there's always what's this, you can't have positive
hmm
without the negative,
hmm
obviously. The biggest thing with them, man, is the setup, bro. Like just that day or 2 days when you're just gonna be humping those stone and those sand and you know, because each bag you're talking about. So if you're talking about a 4x4, that's about 6 bags of the lava rock or pumice, and the
mm.
beach bag is like 40 pounds. You know what I mean? And you're talking about 4 to 6 bags, probably 4 bags of sand, maybe
Ugh.
5.
I'm
That's
sure
50
everybody hates
pounds.
carrying sand, right?
Thank you. So
Fuck.
now, so now you've done carried 2,000 pounds, 1,000 pounds worth of shit on
hmm
that day, you know, and depending on how big you go. The other thing I like too, man, is I like that all the plants are in one soil. You know, if I see a
Mm.
plant that's struggling, now I'm not necessarily second guessing myself, you know, because I say, well, fuck, everything else looks healthy. Now what's your problem? You know, you're all
Yeah,
in the same
yeah.
soil. You know, that kind of helps you from chasing your tail a little bit.
hmm
And and that shit just grows really fast, man, in these beds. You wouldn't, I mean, you gave the plant everything that it needs. You know, it's all right there.
Yeah. And what about PK? But you say when the plant goes into flower, do you add some PK or anything like that, or you just you just giving it the same thing constantly? You don't add anything extra at any time.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how I'm feeling or what time I have, or you know, a lot of times sometimes I'll take a little time and give some FPEs. I like giving those fermented plant extracts, especially ones made with like melons and fruits. I'll do those right when we're starting to switch on over to flower.
Nice.
Water with those a couple times. You know, those do a few things. The FPE have all those microbes in them from the fermentation. If they don't live in the soil, they become food in the soil. So one or the other, you know, that's beneficial. Then you have whatever you made that FPE out of, the melon or the berry or the whatever type of fruit you use. You know, that's
hmm
all nutrient for the plant. And for the most part, when you take your time and get a good soil blend and build it right from the beginning, these things are just kind of maintenance. You know, these things are
Yeah.
just kind of adding a little hit, you know, those dose. And I don't know, sometimes it could be placebo, you know, it is what it
Mm.
is. You know, you feel like you're adding fruit when we're fruiting, so it makes sense, you
hmm
know.
It seems like a great way to grow, man. And you've definitely got this shit nailed. How long have you been growing in a raised bed now?
So the big raised beds, I switched over to those. No, well, I have my 100-gallon round. That my oldest one. I'm gonna count that, even though it wasn't horizontal. I started it with it's a 65-gallon round, and I started on that around um 2012.
Wow.
That's how old that is. So
And that's
that
been running since then.
Yeah, it ran since then. I took a
Yeah.
spell where I went to Las Vegas to had an opportunity to help set up a brand new medical setup. So I worked out there for a year. So this bed, before I left, I watered it and then I wrapped it in plastic, and then I literally dismantled my full grow, took all the equipment and just packed it in that little in the room, right? Go away for a year, come back, and I say, well, let's crank back up, right? So I unpack everything, go get to my soil, and it's literally like a big one whole mushroom. Like,
Whoa, fuck.
Mhm.
and I got some pictures if you look I think it's on my IG, either can, but yeah,
This mycelium had just colonized the whole thing.
yeah, it just turned like it
Damn.
turned to a huge just whole mycelium thing. So I said, good shit, you know, started growing again. And then when I learned about horizontal a couple last year or the year before, I said, man, fuck, I want this bed to be horizontal. It's already so good, you know. How do I do that? So what I ended up doing was this bed's on a lazy, I call it a lazy Susan. It's a round turntable, so I can just spin it. So I said, well, fuck, I want to just increase it to 100 gallons. So I got 100 gallon, and then I took this pot and put it and built the horizon. So 100 gallon, I did the gravel, the sand, and then when I at that sand layer, I took the other bag, entire bed, you know, fabric and all, and set it in there. Boom. And then from there, I went ahead and added my the rest more horizon on around it, and filling it on up in the 100 gallon. And then so you can't even see it. So it's just buried in there. And then now my O is just on top. But the reason I did that is because I could have broke the soil up and put it in there, but the bag had so much crud on it, like the back crud is like an inch of crud. I was like, I want this to be in the new soil and just let the soil be able to just like chow down on all that too. So probably a long story, but yeah, man,
Nice, man.
that's been since 2012, and then it's been horizontal for just now 2 years. And so many cycles on that soil, man. Like many, like lots, bro. Like, you know, it wasn't always hard and heavy every year, but if I wasn't traveling, I was growing at least 2 to 3 cycles a year. If it was only in the winter when it was nice and cool, you know, back then.
Sweet, man. There's so much good info there. I hope anybody who wants to get a raised bed up and running has all the info they need there. But of course, if they don't, you can always go and find Marco as well, and he's going to be happy to answer your questions. Just telling everybody to contact you there, Marco. I hope you don't mind. You know,
Hey, man,
you
ain't
know,
no
Marco
problem.
don't mind answering questions.
Exactly. I know how to say no.
Yeah, man.
No, but I usually try to help out, man. But the keys, don't overthink it. Find a
Mm-hmm.
good soil mix, and then all you're doing is building that sand layer on the bottom, and then you're going to put your soil mix in there. And then from there, you're just going to tend to that mulch layer, which I always say you don't want to be growing. If right now in your grow, when you touch it, if you're touching just the soil that your plants are in, then you should have mulch there. You should at least have straw right there, because if nothing else, you could get nutrient cycling at the very surface of that soil where you're touching. If you just cover that with some kind of straw, you know, simply just do that, and that'll help. Because if not, you're not gonna get nutrient cycling until like an inch down, you know, or half an inch down. You're gonna be losing some soil there.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I think it's key.
Yeah, some great info. And if anybody does start up a raised bed, of course, come and show us over at postysgrowroom.com so we can see the progress. One day, this is something I am going to do. I am going to do some raised bed, but just wait for legality, man, so they can't kick down the door and be like,
I know.
give me that soil, motherfucker.
I know you ain't no moving that bitch quick.
You know, got a highly complex cannabis factory.
Exactly.
That's how they roll. So yeah, man, let's do some listener mail questions then, because we've got lots of questions here to head to. Let's do that. We'll answer these ones which were sent in quickly, and then we'll cover the ones that have gone through the news, through the chat over there. From the dreaded one, and this is an unusual question, because well, let me read it, and then we'll know what I'm talking about. What's the best way to use spent/trike contaminated mushroom cakes as a tea or inoculant in cocoa? Sort of trying a bit of synthganic out and have some mushroom cakes, so wondering what could do with the two. It doesn't say what kind of mushrooms, but I'm going to assume button mushrooms. But I don't know about mixing it with cocoa. Soil, that's a different story, because you know it's got other microbes and things in there, and it'll try and find balance. But mixing the trike with cocoa, I think it can just, because there's nothing else battling against it, it could just dominate the whole lot of the cocoa and take nutrients from the plants, because that's what trichoderma does. You know, that's why you can't grow mushrooms when you get trike contamination, because the trike will absorb nutrients from the medium, and then the mushrooms ain't getting it anymore. So I wouldn't fuck with that, man. Don't be mixing it with your cocoa. No, not that. Mushroom cake, that's a different story. Maybe a bit of fungi could work, but it's just the trike that I'm mainly concerned about. I wouldn't do that. Put that with soil instead.
Yeah, when Chris Trump was on, I had mentioned the trichoderma that came in my IMO collection. And while he said that most people prefer only some of it, some growers actually like using the trichoderma in cannabis grows.
I love
it. It depends. Depends on the grower.
In the cocoa though.
Not in the cocoa though. Not in the cocoa. No,
well, when I'm thinking in the cocoa, if you use it in the cocoa, I would probably take that cake and maybe use it as an ingredient to boost your JMS and use JMS in the cocoa.
Yeah.
Liquefy it in a way, if you will,
Yeah, but damn, if you're gonna do all that to get cocoa more microbial active, you might as well make it soil, man.
That's what I do, Mark.
At that point.
That's what I do. I feed microbes to my cocoa all the time. It's just like, I know people say it's a losing battle, but I love the results.
Well, if you got enough, if you can stay on top of it, then you're fine. Yeah,
it's every week or two you got to throw something else at it because the culture's not going to flourish in there, but you can do it.
Yeah,
man, when it happens to me, because I've had a few contaminated mushrooms when I've been growing button mushrooms as well, and I just put it in my worm bin.
Yeah,
and they fucking love that shit, man. Yeah, it doesn't take long for that to disappear. But mixing it with cocoa, I wouldn't do it. That's my personal opinion. What would you say, Monkey? You saying yay or nay on mixing the contaminated mushroom cake with cocoa?
I would probably take a risk and see what happened.
Yeah, good. Yeah, might as well, isn't it? If you
got it, why
fucking
not,
take a risk, If you can afford to fuck up, then give that a shot.
So, Monkey, you're probably used to seeing a little like growths and stuff in your cocoa then.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay. So you've embraced that already, but some people will freak out if they see something in their cocoa.
No, man. I just like I love any kind of diversity I can find in there. So even in cocoa, if I see a little mycelium growing or something like that in there, that's part of the deal.
Yeah. See, so that's actually I like that approach. That's actually if I did cocoa, I would go that way as well because I'd end up probably going so much microbial that I'd end up going living soil. But step by step, you know what I mean?
I understand. I'm just my tents are so small. Living soil is questionable to say the least.
You're growing fire, so I've already seen what you're growing. So
I mean, it looks good and it smokes pretty good. So I'm happy right now. So I'm enjoying breaking the rules. I don't like people giving me rules. I like to go ahead and see what I can do with So you can't use microbes in cocoa. Let me see. Maybe I can.
You've grown mushrooms before, right, Marge?
Yeah, I have. I have.
Would you mix your mushroom cake, if it was contaminated or not, into your soil or your cocoa? What do you think?
If I was contaminated, it always makes me feel a little nervous, but I have put like spent mushroom cakes in my back garden just for something to because I had to dispose of it somehow. And the flowers that are growing back there didn't seem to be affected, and I actually had mushrooms grow in my back garden too.
Nice.
Very nice.
Fucking bonus.
Bonus.
Yeah. I remember mentioning it on this show one time because the first time it happened, I picked some of them, and someone in the chat or something was just like, make sure you rinse them under cold water to make sure. And I did, and all these tiny little worms came out of them. Roast me out, so I didn't eat any of them.
It happens with wild mushrooms. You always have to clean them.
Exactly. It kind of it was kind of gross.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Make sure you clean the mushrooms if you pick them from outside, everybody. Otherwise, you're gonna have worms.
Oh, worms, a little protein. That's all. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I'm looking for protein in that instance.
But see, that's where the trichoderma in my living soil though. I'd throw that right in there. I'd sprinkle some there.
Yeah. That's it.
Right, man.
Yeah, that would love it because trichoderma is good in soil, isn't it? It loves that shit. But let's go on to the next one. We have one from CD Seeds. He says, I have one. Oh, that means I have one question. What would be the best all-rounder, if that exists, for preventatives in hydroponic DWC systems, i.e. Silver Bullet, HydroGuard, etc.? Or is doing this kind of thing even necessary? That's from CDC. So I assume by preventatives, he means something that's going to keep the DWC system clean and prevent algae and shit from growing.
Stable kind of thing,
You've done DWC, Marge?
Yeah,
any suggestions for that?
I mean, you obviously keep the water circulating and change it out pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Anything
remember
growing in it.
DWC.
You've done DWC as well, have you, Marco?
Yeah, and the key, like Marge said, clean your shit. Keep your
Yeah.
water fresh. Like, don't get lazy, even though you think you can. You know.
I used to use H2O2, and that would
Yeah.
keep things
Yeah,
clean.
that sterile system you're running there, you're not even using a HydroGuard or beneficials in that
Yeah.
situation. That's probably going to be your easiest
Yeah.
system
for
to
sure.
keep maintained.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's best, but it's probably the easiest.
You know, Silver Bullet, HydroGuard, etc. I haven't used any of those. Anybody used any of those kind of
No,
nutrients?
Woody
No.
uses that stuff all the time. He,
Right.
you know, he's all about the HydroGuard, from what I remember.
Yeah,
But like Marco said, keep your shit clean, and that's half the battle right there.
Definitely is. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think every DWC grower will tell you that.
Yeah, man, keep
Cleanliness.
it clean.
Yes.
And man, it's love to see just that big, massive white fucking root ball that you get with DWC. It's crazy that shit is, man.
Right.
You never see roots like it. Madness. But yeah, just keep it clean, man. H2O2 is a good one. That is what I used to use when I did DWC. I didn't have anything else. Just H2O2, which is reasonably cheap.
Second part of the question, is anything like that necessary? Yes, something is necessary.
Well, then it depends, because if you're changing the water every day, then you'll probably be all right without it, you know. But if you're going to let it sit for 3 days or something, the longer it sits, the more likely it is something's going to happen. But if you've got your air stone in there and the air stone doesn't get tangled up in roots, then it should be okay. You know, the bad shit starts to grow when the oxygen gets cut off, you know. That's
standing water.
Yeah. The bad bacteria likes to thrive on lack of oxygen or something, and the good bacteria thrives on oxygen. So as long as the air pump's going and it hasn't been blocked off, because that happens as well. Roots grow massive and it can get tangled up with the air stone, then it doesn't get the bubbles out like it's supposed to. So that can happen. But I would say just keep the H2O2 around, and then if you see any brownness or something dodgy, the roots look off color, then use it and that will clean the roots nicely. Anything else is too much, maybe. I don't know. It's been a long time since you did DWC. Do cocoa instead. It's cool. One more from Firetop then, and then we'll hit a few that we got there in the chat. What's everyone's opinions on vertical grows? I've been seeing a lot of people using their walls as their grow space instead of a floor area. It's real interesting to me, as I could give height and save on space for staff growers. What's your opinions?
Never done it.
No. And where have you seen these? He said
I've seen
This is
them
more
all.
in like a commercial context, less so in like a residential or personal grow. But
and that'd be more for bushy plants, right? Rather than tall plants like cannabis, you know?
Well, Hashimoto did some on his fence in his yard. So I guess that would sort of qualify as vertical systems. They were relatively small plants and relatively, maybe 1 gallon planters or something like that. But that was one way of doing it. I've never attempted cannabis in a vertical system. I've done like strawberries and that kind of stuff, but never cannabis.
And then growing it as well, you'd have to like slant the grow lights, and they're not designed to work like that. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Kind of thinking, you'll need like lights. If you're going to do it vertical, you need light shining on the front of them and on the top of them, kind of like from 2 angles or something to that effect. And then you're going to have to make sure you get your right cooling of the light, how it's designed for cooling at an angle. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about in there. And I don't know if anybody's done that, work on that yet.
No. Just do it normal. You know, simple as that, man. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So you know how it is.
Yeah.
Somebody out there, one of our listeners is doing it. They're going to put it in our comments for us, and we'll know that.
And we'd like to see. I mean, if you've got all the pots level on the floor and then growing vertically, that used to be something that people would do like as a scrog method around a HPS, because of the inverse square law and how powerful the light was the further away you got from it and all that shit. So people would grow, like, instead of a flat scrog, like level, they'd have it in a V shape, or sometimes a round ball
dish,
kind of shape.
Inverted dish. Yeah.
Well, I still do the stadium, a little bit of a stadium style, just for my own access. I mean, excuse me, keep them low in the front and then kind of taller in the back.
Nice.
Just helps me reach in there on one of my grows.
Hey, whatever works, man. I
That's
love
it,
it.
man. Whatever
Exactly.
works. So yeah, that's all the questions. I hope that answers your question there, Fire Type. Just do it normal, man. Get yourself a scrog running if you want to try one of those. That would be cool. You know, you'd enjoy that. So Chilbert was thinking of a question. We have a question. When harvesting, this is for you, Marco. I think all of these are going to be addressed at you, mate. So we're going to throw a few at you right now. Question. When harvesting, do you find plants go through senescence, stop uptaking nitrogen, etc.? Perhaps there is a lot of nutrients available in the bed. Yeah, so when the plants come to the end of the life cycle in your grow room, do they suffer with senescence or do they just look healthy until harvest?
Yes, that's a great question because they will still fade. Like even though that the bed has, it seems like it has enough nitrogen, everything else to, where they wouldn't have to fade. I think it's just a plant specific thing where certain plants will still fade. Some plants will stay green to the end. I think is that what he's asking?
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's that
you would think that they would never like because I used to hear back in the day, like people would say, well, cannabis flower should never change color green as it finishes. It should stay same green the whole way. Like I've heard that before, but like certain plants are gonna fade no matter what. Like that's just what they do. I think they come to their life into their life cycle when they start taking up the end. They really focus on taking up what they need to flower.
Yeah.
that all makes very much sense because I mean in cocoa I'm keeping the nutrient level where the plant wants it all the time anyway, and they still, again, like you said, some plants will stay green till the end, but at least half, if not more, are going to give you yellows and purples and reds and everything else.
Yeah.
So when you're going into the flowering period for pot grows, when you're using salt-based nutrients, when you're going into flower, you're going to get a different kind of food that's massively lower in nitrogen because too much nitrogen during the flowering stage can give you airy buds, right? So how do you prevent your flowering plants from getting too much nitrogen when it's all locked up in the soil like that? Did they just not absorb it? What's the score there?
Yeah, the plants are just absorbing what they want at the time.
Right, rather than it being forced into them like a sulk or yeah.
Yeah, like if I was to feed FAA, fish amino acid, and flour, they'll do just exactly what you said. Like they'll start getting airy and they'll grow too much plant material during flowering, so you
Right.
can't do that.
That's right.
But just
Yep.
the soil itself, the plant's pretty awesome at because if you think about it, you feed these schedules, these hydroponic schedules, all these nutrient schedules, but with living soil, literally you can go water only. The plant's just going to take up what it needs when it wants, and at the end of flower, it's not going to take up the nitrogen and stay like dark green. It's going to just stop taking that up, and then it just does what it wants naturally. I think
Yeah.
with Hydra, we think you have to do that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. In Hydro, you do, of course, but nature doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. Nice, man. It's a good answer. We haven't remember when we mentioned this guy Billy earlier in the chat where he asks these questions. This is one from Billy. This is an example. Yeah, he asks, "How many beds has Marco soiled?"
All right, I like that.
You know what I'm saying about this guy?
Yeah, that's a great question.
But
Well,
we'll come back to that one if you like. You don't have to answer.
I've sold right now. I've got 5, which have been thoroughly soiled.
Nice. Thanks, Billy, for your always wise questions.
Exactly.
But Fumi Bones asks here, do you prefer raised beds on legs or on the ground?
That's a great question, man. Because I built beds before, and I was like, yeah, this one's for like someone if they're handicapped, they can roll a wheelchair to it, and that's cool. But if all things being equal, you want it on the ground. You want it in contact with the earth.
Right.
It's gonna help you with watering. It's just gonna help you retain moisture. and I want the roots to be able to go right on down into the ground. So I go box, if you think four-sided box, setting on the ground, fill
Nice.
it up with soil, and then start growing. You know, just as a simple example.
Mm-hmm. That's the
But
best
yeah,
way.
I
Yeah.
definitely, and I built them like I said in the raised up. And what happens is no wood is gonna survive forever, and 2, 3, 4, whatever many years, now you're gonna have a big pile of shit that's falling over. Whereas if you just start on the ground, you just gonna, you're locked in forever, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. But when you're indoors, I assume you have them raised up a little bit so you can fit the trays underneath.
Yeah, so I'll have it like on a tray or however I'm doing it. But the key
Right.
is getting level. If you're in a basement or wherever you're at, if you're on, in the house, you're good. But if you're, say, a basement is sloping, just get level first and then start worrying about filling everything up, because you want to be level.
Cool.
That's going to be key for your proper watering.
Nice. Right then. How about material, wood or metal? What type of wood? Film Rebels asks. So
That's
what
awesome.
would you be the best material for the raised bed? Would you think?
Believe it or not, guys, I just thought about this the other day, because no matter what wood you use, eventually the shit's gonna decompose, gonna break down. I
Mm-hmm.
actually like those. I call them ugly, but just the metal corrugated beds that you see everywhere. They're like they're just like kind of like almost look like an arm coat barrier that you see on the highway, like that corrugated metal, and
Those
them
animal
because
feeding troughs.
almost like that, but they're purpose built. They're just three-sided. Yeah,
Okay.
almost like a feeding trough, but like Birdies makes them. There's different ones.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see them. They're metal though, and what that does is now you can go ahead and weed eat around it or trim. It's durable. Is the point I'm making with that. I like those metal ones. They're cool. Right on the ground, open to the ground.
Nice. Old school shit. Just reminds me of some farm out in like the Midwest. You know, corrugated with a little bit of rust on it. You know.
Well, they come in different colors. Like if you look, I can't believe you hadn't seen them like on online, but they're coming colors. Like they look pretty good. And like the one I have for my cannabis outdoors was 3 foot by 6 foot.
Right.
And it's rounded corner. So
Damn.
that was three
Nice.
foot by 6 foot. My plants ended up being, I had a structure over them 10 foot by 5 foot. So you're always gonna have more canopy than bed.
Right. So we have our farm Red Eye Gunner who asked, "Does Marco mix cocoa into his soil, or has he ever tried it? It's one of the biggest improvements to my soil grows for yield." Have you used cocoa? Because there's a problem with peat nowadays. People don't like it when people use peat because it's not sustainable. So have you moved over to cocoa? Is that something you will do? What's the score there?
No, well, I've done grows before with cocoa, but I do peat. I'm at peat right now,
Cool,
on
cool,
my last grow, but then I'm actually off the peat and I've gone leaf mold and IMO. So
cool.
like you can kind of change it up. I I mean, I don't mind cocoa, but when I did that stint in the commercial deal, we got like fucking 5,000 pounds of cocoa and all bags.
Damn.
We set up, we run it, and then we realized the fucking cocoa wasn't washed.
No
So it's
shit.
Oh
huge salt, like,
no.
yeah, and it was supposed to be washed. So we were having
Wasn't
plant
washed or buffered.
issues.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was horrible,
Mission.
man. So,
How did you fix that?
but man, we sat in there, bro. We ran so many gallons of water. I feel like we drained half of Lake Mead.
Damn.
Fucking like we kept running until leachate, running off till leachate
Mm,
finally ran off. To salt finally ran out clean.
damn.
But yeah, it was ridiculous. That was another
Mm.
thing, man. That fucking commercial, man. That's a wasteful motherfucker.
Yeah, I bet.
God damn.
Yeah, I don't give a shit, man.
Nope.
Chilbert has a good question here. Can Marco please explain about how you manage one cycle to the next? Do you veg in pots, then transplant, etc.? So what's the score there? Do you just cut a whole crop down and then plant some seedlings into it, or do you have plants at different stages growing in the soil?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish that I could have them in the soil, obviously. And when I ran my outdoor, I planted direct seed out there for that reason. That's fun. But in my indoor, I'm running Perpetual. So I run flower rooms individually set up. Um, Not, I could run open space, but I like the individual because I like to run Perpetual. And so I run the flower rooms, and then I run a nursery. And so
Right.
my nursery now, I'm only doing my own seeds and my own clones now. I'm not like buying nobody's shit as
Nice.
far as, yeah, so I'm just all seed my clone. So what I do is I run clone from clone, and I veg. My deal is when I plant them, so I chop, I harvest, I I put in my new O Horizon, I freshen that up, and now I plant seedlings that I had in veg in 4-inch pots, and then I try to in 10 days flip the flower. So I like to do a 10-day veg and then a 70-day window that I allow that room to have.
Mhm.
And then that lets me get right at 4, harvest if everything's going right per year per bed.
Nice. That's pretty fucking sweet, man.
Yeah, I used to try to do moms and shit, but man, talking to enough people and doing it long enough, I don't think clone from clone in my lifetime, I don't think that I'll have an issue with that. And plus, I just can't seem to keep shit long. Like I keep things a few years, maybe, and then
variety is the spice of life as well. You want to try all these different ones.
yeah, I like to keep a nice stable, which I feel like I could pull out to, hey, or you got a competition, or I got something I can pull out, that kind of thing. And then just always looking for something more.
Another interesting question from Chilbert here. Fungal or bacterial dominance for cannabis? The soil that the cannabis is growing in. Do you do anything for fungi in your soils?
Yeah, that's always been the big thing. I remember even back a long time ago in the forums, fungal or bacterial, fungal dominant. Well, so I do like that fungal dominance. That's why I go collect IMO, which is where we collect indigenous microorganisms from old growth forests in the soil.
Sweet.
But then again, bacteria is also important because I use a lot of JLFs, Jadam liquid fertilizer, and those are loaded with bacteria.
Mm.
To me, the key is getting a good balance, having both in the soil. Obviously, you want your soil a little bit more on the fungal dominant side. For me, because that's where you're getting more of your nutrient cycling. Fungi breaks down things way better. I won't say better, but fungi breaks things down like for instance wood. Bacteria can't break wood down as well as fungi, and there's a lot of wood in our soil, a lot of woody lignin type material in our soil.
Mm.
So yeah, a little bit of both, but you know focus on that fungi. When I see mushrooms in my soil, I like that.
Yeah, it's apparently a good sign,
Yeah,
especially if
exactly.
they're a certain type of mushroom.
Yeah, and usually
Yeah.
they're edible. They're usually a good good type.
Imagine if they weren't. Somebody tried it. Be careful, everybody. Check what kind of mushroom it is first, then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be hearing you in the newspapers because they'll be using that as one of the excuses. We can't let people grow their own because mushrooms might grow and they might eat them and they will die. Don't be that guy. Don't
I
be that
know.
guy.
And then down, what was it in Australia 2 weeks ago? The
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
oh fuck!
We got him. We got him.
Damn it! 14 goddamn days ago.
There you go. I like that.
Well, didn't the lady kill it like a bunch of people in a dinner party died from like she's using
Yeah,
wild
man.
mushrooms? That's
Something like that.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, killed the whole family or something. It was madness, man.
Yeah. That's
Did
wild
she
mushroom.
die as well?
No.
No. Oh, dodgy.
Really. Investigation.
Mhm.
Oh, goddamn. Yeah, I just wasn't feeling hungry that day.
Right.
You
I
know,
don't really much care for mushrooms myself.
shenanigans. Yeah. Dodgy. Yeah,
Very
I heard
dodgy.
about that case. It's a big case, man. It's been all over the world, so it shows you how
Yeah.
often it happens. You know, not very.
No.
Yeah.
Fungi is far safer than what most people think, but it's better to air caution. You know, I used to be like terrified to even touch mushrooms in case it was a deadly one.
Exactly.
You know, but it's
Yeah.
really not the case. They won't infect you unless you eat them. You know, so
Yeah.
you can touch
Yeah.
the deadly mushrooms.
But you know,
Exactly.
parents, as when we're kids, parents have to scare you to death with that. But I remember
Mhm.
that. Oh my God, I touched a mushroom. I'm gonna die. Like,
But you know,
know.
the thing is, why is the same thing not applied to berries? Because there's loads of berries everywhere. But if you eat, you gonna get
True.
fucked, man.
Yeah, you'll get really sick. Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, there's
Same
garden plants
principle.
out there that'll kill you too if you eat them. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
anyway.
all big ag, man. They want to sell you fertilizer. You know.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
See, and mushrooms don't need fertilizer, so big ag don't
Exactly.
like them.
Mushrooms, cool. I like mushrooms.
Yeah.
And just one more then from Bob Carter asks, are purple stems due to a lack of phosphorus?
Oh, straws?
Yeah,
Depends.
No, not every time. Sometimes it's for
Exactly.
fast growth. Is sometimes it's not
Mm.
always a deficiency. I don't think.
yeah, and just genetics
Sometimes
as well.
it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's the LED lights, it's sunburn on the
that's
stems.
right,
So,
yeah.
you'll get a reaction from high light intensity on some strains.
I've had that before from when I used to use a blurple light, man. It actually stained the leaf, and you could see like where the shadow was from bits of leaf that wasn't getting hit by light. There was a clear line of where it had been affected. It was fucking weird.
Oh yeah. Oh, he said the lights. I'm sorry. I thought he meant straw tube stems. Oh yeah.
Oh
You're
no,
right.
just like the stems on the leaves and stems on the plants.
The petioles, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and you'll notice that some people say, "Man, if purple stems are 100% deficiency," but if you look, like y'all guys just said, I'll have one side of my stem that's getting hit by the LED. It's purplish, but on the back side, it doesn't get touched. It's green.
That's right.
You know, so
Look on the underside of your stems, people. You'd be
that's right.
surprised. Yeah.
You would. You would.
And Jeff said here, she's been locked up. She killed 3, poisoned 5.
Oh Lord.
Jesus, that's gotta be a horrible way to go as well. You know, we joke and we laugh, but you know, people have died, man. Condolences to those people. Damn.
Family dinner too. Like, goddamn.
Damn. Imagine being like the husband, and you're like, I ain't going around there. She can't cook for shit, man. I can't believe you're dragging me around there. Yeah. Tragic.
I told you.
You know how family meetings go. You know how it is.
Mhm.
Damn, she has a go. Oh my god, she has a Go Fungi page. No, it's got that's a bad fucking typo. That is, Jeff. She has a GoFundMe page, right? Shit.
No, I don't think it was a typo. I think it was a funny.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Shame on you, Jeff. Do not make dark jokes. You know.
Too soon. Too soon.
Yeah, so I think that's all the questions there. We covered the whole raised bed things. I think should we go to the outro?
I believe we should.
Anything to add? I think we're good. Let's do it.
I think we're good. We, raised beds and all that's.
Oh, no, I put the music on, Marco. It's playing. So people won't hear you. There we go.
Peace.
Let me just just mute the music. Oh, there we go. No, but it's only the outro, so we'll still here now. We just chat to everybody until we wrap things up and go. There's the outro fade in, nice and professionally. There's no other music kicking in. Yeah, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying, yeah, if you guys want a easy way, to me, trust me, it's difficult on a little bit on the setup, but it's a very forgiving system, and you'll be happy with the results.
Nice, man.
Yeah,
so lots of good info there, Marco. Thanks for coming to join us, man, and sharing your knowledge with us. And of course, we have an interview with you in the past as well. If people go look there, that covers the soil stuff in more detail as well.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all once again, man. It's been fun as always.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Much
awesome.
appreciated. Yeah, it's been lots of fun. And I'm glad we managed to catch you with the 2 weeks towards the end of the show. There.
2 weeks.
You know, it's like yes,
Yeah, I knew it. I was doing good too. Saying,
but
12
I'm telling
to 14 days.
you'd be surprised how often 2 weeks comes up in conversation. It's crazy, man. We get it every week. It just pops out of nowhere. It's like, oh, he said it.
Got him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All
That's
right,
a good
guys.
shit, man. So let's wrap this up and say goodbye to everybody then, I think.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Marco.
Peace, y'all.
We,
Goodbye.
yeah, are you going? You jumping out? Sorry, I'm just
No,
playing.
I'm just didn't want to get caught. I want to say bye now. So if the music comes on,
Right,
and
yeah, I'm just waiting
get
for
out the
music to
way.
kick in here, all professionally. See, all professional.
Yeah.
There we go. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday with a CH Tuesday
That's right.
for the
English.
interview.
That's
right.
that's English Tuesday.
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 See you on Tuesday, governor.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Translation.
Is that going
Tuesday.
Australian? Everybody wave. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Did the music end? Is it still going? Ah, look, the music fucking broke. Okay, everybody. Let me fix that for you. There you go. Okay. Goodbye. Bye.